Hello everyone, and welcome back to another great super cool radio interview. I'm your host always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. And before I start talking about my guests, just a quick reminder to thumbs up this video if you enjoy it, and make sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell. That way you not miss any super cool radio interviews or episodes. You probably can tell by my shirt and my hat what band I will be featuring for this interview. I had the opportunity back in January to see Koffin Kats live for the first time. It was an amazing experience. They put on a phenomenal show, and I enjoyed every second of their set. My guest for this interview is the lead vocalist and stand-up bassist for Koffin Kats, Vic Victor. We're going to have a really great conversation talking about 20 years of Koffin Kats, what music he listens to, and so much more. It's a really great interview, and I really hope you enjoy. So let's dive into this interview.
Super cool radio.
Before we jump into the show, I want to tell you about our merch store on Threadless. Shop a wide variety of logos with multiple colors and sizes available for each design. Your support is greatly appreciated and helps us continue to make killer content like this episode. Please visit supercoolradio.threadless.com or the link in the description to shop now. I have an awesome guest joining me at this time. He is the lead vocalist and upright bassist for the Koffin Kats. Please welcome Vic Victor.
Hello.
Nice to have you on the show. I know we talked a little bit back in January, so I really appreciate having you on the show.
Yeah. I'm glad we can make it work.
Yeah, for sure.
And
I know.
It's funny. I actually was just packing for this next upcoming tour, and I have that pink golf towel that you gave us. Yeah. It works out great for cleaning sunglasses and phone screens and whatnot. So
yeah, it comes in super handy. You're actually the second person who I've given to this year that I've interviewed, and they said the same thing. So I'm very glad people are actually putting this to use. That's actually a useful thing for bands.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you enjoyed the paint. That's all I had on stock. That's still all I have in stock. I still have to order some. So I'm glad you're digging the pink face towel.
Yeah.
So I know you've been obviously very busy. You're about to leave on your third tour, as you said, starting tomorrow. Leaving tomorrow for the tour that's coming up very soon. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview.
Yeah. I'm happy that we're able to squeeze it in. And yeah, so we are flying out tomorrow. Our next tour starts on Friday down in Riverside, and then we kind of hop, skip, and jump all the way up the West Coast and go up into the Pacific Northwest, and then work our way all the way back down to San Diego in 2.5 weeks. Looking forward to it. We always have a really good time on the West Coast. That's kind of like where the majority of our fan base is located in the U.S. is along the West Coast, specifically Southern California. It's always been good to us. And the cool thing about this tour is that we have a support act with us called Crazy in the Brains out of New York. They've been making a lot of traction online. They got a lot of attention with their cover of Iggy Pop's song, I'm a Punk Rocker, Yes I Am. And so they do a really cool version of that if you want to check it out.
I've heard of Crazy in the Brains, obviously, through being on social media. I haven't checked out too much of their music. From what I have listened to, I'm really digging their style and their energy and their music.
Yeah, that's our favorite kind of shows, are the ones where you got bands that are everyone's kind of in the same genre, but everybody brings something different to the table. You know, you're not watching for the same different bands.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's always cool for me. Like I don't mind shows that have even if they're slightly different genres. That I don't mind shows like that, because that way you get different flavors of music throughout the whole show. It's not just a cookie cutter. Okay, they're going to sound like these people. Are going to sound like these people. I like a little bit of different style of music for each band.
Well, that's what worked out really well for us coming from Midwest, coming from the Detroit area originally, is that when we first got started back in 2003, there was very few and far between bands that were actually doing what we were doing in this region. They're all over the place out west, but as far as like for the Midwest and the tri-state, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana area, there wasn't much going on. So we were able to pair up with like punk bands, ska bands, and whatever, and really was able to get kind of the attention of people just not only within the genre that we play in, which is considered psychobilly, but you got people from all kinds of different genres that were getting into us. And when we started touring, and we'd do a little bit in the Midwest, and then we'd branch out a little bit more. And then eventually we were doing a coast to coast tour, but we were playing all the towns in between that didn't have any type of Billy scene. And so we would play with these different bands from different genres. And that's kind of always been our thing, is that we've been able to develop a fan base that's not just adhering to one specific rule of this is what I listen to and this is all I listen to. And that's really what helped us get going in the beginning.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And, even throughout the Koffin Kats music, like you hear, like there's rock elements in there, there's punk elements. Obviously, the majority is psychobilly, but you guys include other elements, so it's not just like the same like psychobilly type songs through like the whole set. And I think that's what also like at least for me, it's like that's really cool that I can get to hear like some different elements through you guys.
Yeah, we can't help but let our influences bleed through. Believe me, if you gave me a paint by numbers, here's what your band looks like, here's how your band's supposed to sound, here's a paint by numbers on how to do it, we would fuck it up. because of how ingrained our influences are within us. I mean, Tommy and I first kind of like when we met and everything and we're jamming music together, I mean, we instantly bonded over the fact that we love Southern California punk rock like Pennywise and Bad Religion. And then I started handing them over Necromantic and Mad Sin CDs and be like, check this stuff out. He was familiar with Tiger Army at the time because in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was Tiger Army and Necromantics that were on those Hellcat compilations. Everybody had those Give 'em the Boot compilations. And so I was like, hey, there's more to that music style if you like what those songs are. And then I started giving them sharing my psychobilly collection with them, which was a really dumb idea because that dickhead lost like 3 of my special CDs that were mail order from like at that time from Germany. I had to wait for months to get them. And then I let him borrow them, but he still owes me. But all in all, I think it was a good trade because here we are 20 years later.
It's a trade-off, definitely. But I'm glad you guys are obviously still doing it 20 years later. But yeah, I first discovered Necromantics, then I was like, oh, I want to check out this genre more, and that's how I found the Koffin Kats. Was first listening to Necromantics.
Oh, right on. Awesome. Yeah.
But it's really cool for you guys, especially this year. You guys are celebrating 20 years of the Koffin Kats this year for 2023. So I've heard you guys are putting a show together June 24th in Detroit. So how's that going? And I know you guys are working on sorry, I just forgot. I know you guys are working on putting the show together and getting bands and stuff. So how is all that going?
Great. We got it all locked in. And so it's going to be us. And then we have friends of ours opening the show. We have this band called Suburban Delinquents. And they've been around for quite some time and have just been kind of a punk staple in the Metro Detroit area for years now. And then we have the Amino Acids, which are a fantastic, just spacey surf band with a harder edge to them. And we've been playing shows with them since we first got started. And then kicking off the show is a great band called Norcos and Horchatas. And they're kind of an up and coming Detroit punk band. So it's a cool bill. It's going to be a lot of fun, and everybody's got their own little flavor they're bringing to the table. And the venue that we're playing at is a venue that before we were even in bands, we were going to see bands play at. So it's kind of a cool little historic venue in Detroit that's still around. And we're looking quite forward to it.
Oh, definitely. I hope you guys have a really great show. So now, like for you guys for that show, can you give me hints like what the set list is going to look like for the 20th anniversary show?
Well, we just revamped our set list, and we always we lean heavier towards the early material just because I mean, we know what it's like to like other bands, and generally people usually like what the earlier material was with some of the later stuff sprinkled in, and that's the approach that we've always taken to our set lists, and nobody's complained. So hey, we'll keep releasing new music, but we get it, everybody loves the early stuff. So
No, I totally understand you with that, and I know yeah, a lot of people that way. Even like I'm the same way with that. Like especially if it's like when I first listen to a band, I usually listen to the early stuff first. That's the most familiar I am with their music. So I get it, but I definitely when I saw you in January at the Indiana Tap, you guys delivered an amazing show. It was my first time seeing you guys live. You guys blew my mind just how much like energy you brought to the stage, how good you guys sounded. It was a very fun show.
oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, we're approaching the 3,000 show mark at this point, and I would hope that we have some form of like tightness on stage at this point.
Yeah. After 20 years,
yeah, it would be like, oh man, we've been this, we haven't been cut out for this all along. It seems no.
No, I totally got you. But what was really cool for like watching you guys, especially for the first time, and not really seeing like too much live footage before the show, was that like you with the upright bass. With you stand on it, you play it like you're swinging around, you hit the ceiling with it the first time when you lift it up. So for you, like how did when did you learn to play? Like what age did you learn to play the upright bass?
I got my first upright when I was 17. I'm 40 now, so yeah, I've been playing that long. Oof. And so yeah, I got my first upright when I was 17, right around that area, and I instantly just started trying to learn as much as I could about it. It really wasn't until, I mean, I got the basic technique down, but it really wasn't until I hit the road and I met other upright players and information on the type of playing that we do and just information in general there wasn't YouTube. There wasn't anything when I was getting started. So it was kind of like try to do your own research and try to contact people and say, hey, how'd you get this sound and that kind of stuff. And being able to hit the road and meet other upright players and exchange information and all that. By the end of the first tour, I had a completely different technique down and everything. And it's just what I do is just something where it's just kind of developed naturally over the course of the shows. And that goes for the same with the stage show, is that we never set out and we're like, all right, we need to choreograph stuff. It's just like the tricks and the throwing the stuff around. It's something that came organically over the years. And now it's kind of like second nature to us, but it's entertainment. And our philosophy when we were getting started was we were playing so many shitty clubs that had shitty sound systems that were like, well, we're probably not going to sound good, but we might as well try to look good up there and give the people a show that they can remember if it's not for the sound.
Yeah, at least give some very visual to it if the sound is lacking on it. But for you, when did you start like experimenting with like I'm gonna like standing on top of the bass, or when you learn like I can?
That was on the first day that I got the thing. I remember the semi truck dropped it off. I had a giant cardboard box. I got it out of the box, and first thing I did was stand on it.
Right on. Now, I was talking to E-Ball after the show, and he said you had to make some modifications to it because he said like to make it stronger if you don't put your foot through it when you stand on it. Like, what modifications did you do to it?
So I mean, I go and, well, it depends on the bass. If it's a cheap bass, I just kind of use them until they break, and then I just fix whatever breaks. And that's usually me like going inside the body and putting blocks of wood to reinforce certain areas so they don't collapse or whatnot, or re-gluing joints and stuff like that. I've had to become a on the road Home Depot luthier essentially to repair it, keep these basses going, because they are just giant, hollow chunks of wood that they don't take that much abuse, even though it looks like I abuse them a lot on stage. But
Being able to modify and repair on the road. I mean, obviously, sometimes you do have to do that because you guys do tour.
Oh
very
yeah, I mean,
frequently.
there were times before I was. I'm more cautious now, and I know for like warning signs to look for if your instrument's about to implode. There were times that before shows we'd be unloading, and all of a sudden somebody's bringing in the bass bag, and they're like, "Hey, something's wrong," and then like the neck is all broken off or something, and well, I'm off to Home Depot, go get some glue and screws and clamps.
So for repairing the bass when you do have that issue, how do you go about doing that? Like, obviously you have to go to Home Depot. Like, how much time does it take you to do that? Like, how much time do you have before the show to do that?
It depends. I mean, it depends. Usually, if there's a repair that's need to be done, I'll kind of plan it out while we're on the road to say we have a Monday off. I'll go, okay, this area really needs attention, so we'll bring it into the hotel room and I'll set up shop and re-glue what I need to, or break apart and sand down or fix whatever I need to. But yeah. I mean, for emergency repairs are things that just they happen before the show, and you just hope that the thing doesn't blow up on you on stage, and that's just is what it is. And I think I don't recall ever having to where I've had to borrow somebody else's bass to play a show. I don't think it's ever been that bad, but yeah.
Well, I'm glad throughout the 20 years that for most part, you everything that's obviously the bass has worked out enough to get through shows, and you've had the opportunity to repair.
I've never had to pick up an electric bass to get through our set, and that would be terrible anyway. I have tried to play our stuff with electric bass, and my brain just says, "What are you doing?"
So yeah, I think obviously because it's in the same kind of category, both being basses, but it's probably very different. To get used to playing on upright bass and trying to switch it to electric.
Oh yeah,
bass.
I mean, my hand just wants to do this. It doesn't want to do this with a pick or with yeah.
I'm glad for the most part it's a rarity to happen. So I'm glad obviously the bass is still in working condition. You guys still I got everything working with that as well. But I did want to talk about throughout it's been obviously 20 years of Koffin Kats this year. Now, I did want to talk about for you, has there been any moments that throughout the 20 years that you go, I can't believe this is actually happening, or this has surpassed all my expectations?
Oh, I mean, we're very fortunate in that, yeah, we've had quite a few of those moments, and a lot of it revolves around just being able to be out on tour with, or even open up for bands that really helped define our sound and really got us influenced, like Reverend Horton, being able to go out on tours with Reverend Horton Heat. I mean, he was one of the reasons that I even got into this type of music and everything. I mean, the Reverend Horton Heat Psychobilly Freakout video on Beavis and Butthead is what exposed me to upright bass for the first time, or at least the use of upright bass in rock and roll, as opposed to beforehand. I was a young kid and I only seen upright basses in cartoons or orchestras or whatever, So yeah, I mean, for about 4 years, we were living on the road and all our bills were being paid by rock and roll. I mean, we were out for 300 days out of the year, but it was cool to say for that span of years that, yeah, we made a living through rock and roll. Our schedules now, as we've gotten older and we have families and things, our tour schedule is decreased. So we're only doing closer to, 80 to 100 shows a year. As opposed to it was 250 to 300 when we were really hitting it heavy, but still, I mean, it's enough to stay active as a band, and it's just we're making the balance between real life and band life work.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And I know, obviously, 100 shows don't sound like a lot, to some people, but it's still there's plenty of chances to see the Koffin Kats live. If someone actually wants to see you guys, there's still plenty of opportunities to do that.
Yeah, we're very fortunate in that because most of what we've done in our career we've done it ourselves. We're a very DIY band, and that comes right down to the booking. And we now have basically a whole network and routing that we just tap into and we pre-plan all of our tours out like a year in advance, and it's cool that we've been able to develop that, and it's cool that a lot of the clubs that we've established really good relationships with, they always seem to have us back, and everything works out great.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And I know, just going back to our show back in January that I saw you, it was a good crowd. Like, people showed up and people were having fun.
And it's always makes us happy to see new clubs. I mean, that's a good sign when there's new clubs popping up that do live music, because live music is under attack. It's easier for a lot of these venues to book a DJ because it's cheaper, and they know that the DJ audience it's usually going to be larger than the live band audience. And that's just the sad fact of the world that we're in today. So for venues to want to still lean towards live music and everything, it's cool. And to see new venues, such as where we were at when you came out, see places like that pop up, it makes us happy, because we're like, cool, live music is still alive. You know?
Oh, definitely, for sure. And I know this is very prominent where I'm from in Indiana, that if it's not a DJ, it's a cover band.
Yeah.
There's not many original music clubs out there, or if there were, unfortunately 2020 or 2021 they had to close down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was during all that stuff, all that pandemic stuff, there were, we had friends lose business, and we had friends that were just getting clubs started that didn't make it out, and there were some older clubs that we really loved that didn't make it out, and that happened. Yeah.
And unfortunately, yeah, and especially there's some new ones that kind of cropped up around 2019, and then just obviously 2020 happened, and they just couldn't make it any further.
Yeah.
So for sure, but I'm glad that there are clubs still out there throughout the U.S. that do support original live music. I travel a lot, Indiana, Detroit, or not, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio sometimes. So I'm glad I'm able to find different areas that do support original music, because I love it, and I do try to go out to as many shows as I can if possible. Yeah,
and I get it. The older that you get, the harder it is sometimes to get out and support these shows that are coming through. But at least if you can get out and see the band that you like, and if you can suck it up because it's a Tuesday night, we get it. We have to punch a time clock a lot of the times too. Like, we know going out and staying out till 1 o'clock in the morning and getting up at 6 in the morning sucks. But there's people that do it, and we really appreciate that they do it, because I mean, not every night can be a Saturday night out on tour, unfortunately.
Oh, no, for sure. And I do know, since when touring really started coming back, 2021, 2022, there was a lot of Tuesday or Wednesday shows. And yeah, it is a sacrifice to do that. But at the same time, when is the next time you're going to see the band? You never know. So if they're in your area, I always encourage people, if you can, to make it out.
Absolutely. Yep.
For sure. And I did have a question. It's kind of a newer question I have for this season. Actually, the first one I asked. So we'll see how well it goes. But because obviously, as we've been talking about, Koffin Kats been around for 20 years. But throughout those 20 years, especially early on, did you ever think that there was ever any moments or any point throughout the band that you thought, I'm not sure if this band's going to make it, or if this is this is what I'm going to be doing for most of my life? Did you ever have those moments?
No. Because I was so dead set, and that I structured, and whoever was in the band at that time, mostly Tommy and Eric and we structured our lives to focus around Koffin Kats. It's not hey, personal life comes first and then Koffin Kats. No, we were from the very start just brainwashed into what job can we take that will let us go on tour? What can we do to let us go on tour? And it was always looking at it as, hey, tour's coming up. We have tour coming up. We have tour coming up. We have tour coming up. What are we going to do to make the ends meet in the in-between times? And now fast forward to what we're doing now is that we all pretty much, if we're not on tour, we still see each other pretty much every day. You might have noticed our merch guy, Joey.
Yep. So
funny thing about Joey is that he was coming out on the road with us since 2006. And at one point he left to go start a business, and that's putting putting sprinklers in the ground, basically. Well, COVID happens. All of our touring has to stop, and we were running a print business at the time, making t-shirts and embroidered patches. All that business stopped because the majority of our clientele was bands, and nobody was touring, nobody was selling merch. And so we shut down the shop, and we went to go work for Joey, and we went to go work putting sprinklers in and stuff like that. And now that's what we've been doing. In Michigan, when the ground's not frozen, that's our job. That's our full-time job. And when the ground freezes, we go on tour. And so it's one big happy family.
No, that was actually a really great response to that, and I think that's really cool. Like, obviously, you know, you're dead set on making this happen, but also that you're able to find ways, like as you said, you had a print shop, then you're working in irrigation, so that way you can tour, and also, you know, obviously have a job to, you know, make money to supplement everything at the same time.
Yeah, I'll tell you, and I tell bands this, like when there's younger bands that approach us now and ask for advice, and I'm like, well, let me see what I can offer here. Well, the biggest piece of advice that I can offer is that make sure that your band has chemistry. If your band doesn't have chemistry, if there's infighting already happening within the first year of being a band, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time because you're only setting yourself up for failure if you have that kind of thing going on within a band. As one of the reasons that I never wanted to have Koffin Kats be more than a 3-piece. We have technically we consider ourselves a 4-piece because we include Joey, our merch guy, as an honorary member. But an onstage 3-piece, that's our 3 brains just work together as one. But I would think if we added a 4th one in there, that's when drama and conflict would happen. But we've been very fortunate that all of us kind of are just on the same wavelength, and we roll with the punches the same way. Again, it's the biggest thing is chemistry, and then comes talent when it comes to having a band.
Oh, definitely, for sure. I mean, you guys, like, I had the opportunity to chat with all you guys after the show, and you guys, you obviously, you had some really great chemistry, obviously on stage, that you guys, you performed really well, but also, I saw you guys interacting like after the show, and like you guys like on the same page. You're cool. You kind of just go with the flow with the things, and it wasn't any like issues or drama, anything like that. You guys are just cool.
We just hang out.
Yeah,
I mean, we wouldn't be doing any of this if we didn't have a good time, and that's when this band will end, is when it's just not fun anymore. And I mean, we have fun every tour we go out on, and I mean, to the point that like our stomachs hurt because we laugh so much. It's just the dumb shit that we do, and it's stuff that we're like, we really should have like somebody with a camera follow us around, but at the same time, it's like, maybe it's better that we don't.
It could work both ways, yeah. but no, and I obviously I got to chat with Joey after the show and before the show, and he was really cool. And because I was talking to him, I was like, hey, because I originally reached out for an interview, like obviously like end of last year, and so I was talking to him, and he had the best response. He's like, yeah, they'll do an interview with that, or I'll kick their ass. So he was really cool.
Yeah, no, we all listen to podcasts. We love podcasts, and 2 is just that any type of promotion we're all about it. Any way that any outlet that wants to tap into us, no matter how large or small, we're happy to do it.
No, I really appreciate you, you coming on the show, because obviously, huge fan of Koffin Kats. I don't know if anyone can tell by what I'm wearing, but it was just so cool to actually, obviously, have you on the show and actually get to see you guys live. I feel like after seeing you guys live, maybe like I feel like I'd better, structure this interview better about questions and stuff. So I think it actually helped. But it was, you guys were like one of my bucket lists like this year. I was like, I want to get Koffin Kats on, because I just because of how much I really like you guys and like your music.
Right on. Well, we're currently, you can't tell how my computer is, but I'm sitting in our studio right now, and just wrapping up. We have five demos that we're going to be recording into actual songs, and then releasing 6 songs for a new EP, and hopefully have that out over the summertime. I'm not saying any dates, because every time I say a date, something happens that pushes it later. So I'm aiming for the summertime to have it out. I wanted to have 2 releases out this year, but we'll see what happens. I need to just stop saying that we're going to do stuff, because things always get in the way, but I at least now have the songs done and demoed out. And so looking forward to getting back in the studio and tracking some more stuff. And yeah, we also have a music video that's being animated right now, because we did go in and record a new track, and that'll be ready. It's ready now, but we'll release it when the video is done. So.
Very nice. I'm definitely looking forward to new music from you guys. I liked your previous EP. I believe that was released back in 2021. The latest one, and I very much enjoy it. So I definitely look forward to hearing more new music from you guys, plus the music video. All that sounds really awesome. And I did want to talk about, because I know Eric was talking to me after the show, that you were working on it. Like he said, you were working on a studio. I don't exactly know what that means. But like with recording music and possibly other bands and stuff. So is like, can you elaborate and expand on that?
Yeah. So I have, during quarantine and all that, I had a lot of time on my hands. And so we had a studio at the building where we had the print shop, and we were going to sell that building. So I ended up moving the studio out of that building and into my basement. And I had all kinds of downtime to actually do it right and soundproof it and treat it and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, I have a studio in my basement.
No, that's really cool. Because I know a lot of musicians kind of did that, or at least quite a few did that. For 2020, obviously, because kind of most of the world shut down. So yeah. It does help out.
The technology to have nothing can ever beat being in a world-class classic studio. I mean, there's just a vibe and a sound that those things have. And not to mention that the equipment is just untouchable when it comes to price and all that. But the technology that's available these days, you can get something that's pretty damn close if you know what you're doing. And it doesn't matter if you're doing it in a basement or a drum room that's tiny or whatever. You can now make those drums sound out of this world if you wanted to. That being said, I wanted to get into recording us, and I've always had an enjoyment of audio engineering and everything. I just never had the time or the inspiration per se to really get into it until within like 8 years ago. I was like, I want to do this. I'm tired of our albums missing things that I wasn't able to convey that I wanted to hear. And I didn't know what certain things did or how to say, hey, I wanted to have this type of effect or that. It was always kind of like, we would do some light production and I'd throw out ideas of like doing backup vocals and that kind of stuff. When it came down to the actual effects, it was always left up to whoever was engineering the album. And a lot of the stuff I liked, some of the stuff I didn't like, but that's just what it was. And so that led me to where I am here now, is that I'm tracking us, and things are sounding like I want them to sound. The upright bass is sounding how I want it to sound. And with me doing that has got some attention from other bands, and I've been doing some mixing for those bands and they've been stoked on it. And I've done some tracking for some other bands, and so far so good.
Right on, right. I'm glad to hear everything's going really well. But so is this the first Koffin Kats music that you're engineering and producing, or have you produced other music in the past?
As far as like actually like recording from front to back, and that started in 2018. We started releasing music. Yeah, I think 2018 is when I first started releasing stuff that I was doing 100% Koffin Kats, 100% all the tracking and mixing and all that.
Oh, right on. And I do know what you like what you mean with like producing and stuff. That every producer has like different sounds and different ways of doing stuff. So
yeah, I can't say that. Like, so when people talk about producers, it's weird because there's many different definitions of what a producer actually does, and I can say that we've never had an official producer on an album. What it is, and from my experience in the studio and in my own studio working with bands, what production actually is the bands sitting around with the mixing engineer and bouncing ideas off of each other and saying, oh, hey, it's cool if we put a tremolo effect on the guitar. Hey, it's cool. Let's try to make the vocals sound like how this song sounds. And that's production right there as far as I'm concerned. And then when it comes to production credits, it's always been whoever recorded the album and us, because when it came down to those decisions and finally saying what type of sound the song would have, it was a collective. It wasn't somebody that we had flown in and dictate, I think it should sound like this or that. One, we never had the budget for anything like that, and that's really what an official producer does, is stands around and dictates how things should sound in a song.
Okay, I got you. I didn't. Obviously, I've talked to many different people. They all have, as you said, different definitions of like. So I'm glad it was actually really good clarity, for at least for me and everyone listening, watching. So like for you guys then. So obviously, so now that you are kind of from front to back doing all the producing stuff. So do you guys like record? Like, is this like recorded live that everyone's in the same room, or is this kind of like individual parts?
It's easier for us to do individual parts because some of the time, if say I got to get Eric in here to do drums, Tommy is still working or whatever, and our schedules are just so damn busy when we're not on the road. It works out better to have Tommy lay down scratch guitar at some point, and then have Eric come in and jam out drums to that scratch guitar. And I'll do scratch vocals over the top. So it's essentially, he knows where he's at in the song. It's got the vibe of the guitar playing through his headphones. It's just missing the actual people in the room. So yeah, it's the live in the studio. We have the ability to, it works out so much easier doing it at separate times.
Yeah, plus everyone's schedule and everything.
That's really it.
But no, I got you, and I know I'll be wrapping up this interview very soon. I know, obviously, as we talked about, you guys are going on tour very soon. But I did want to talk about, so for you, like outside of like Koffin Kats music, do you check out other bands? Like, what music do you listen to outside of the Koffin Kats?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to newer bands, I really like Ghost. I think Ghost is a pretty cool band. I know they're very polarizing in the metal community and all that stuff, but it's just to hear a band that has so many different influences and have such a cool sound come into the mainstream. I love that kind of stuff because there's been so much shit since 1997 coming out onto mainstream rock radio. It's refreshing to hear something that kind of harkens back to the roots of heavy metal, and then also like psychedelic music and prog rock and everything. I appreciate that band for what it is. I draw drama aside and everything. As far as new music, and then when it comes to bands that I'm influenced by and whatnot, I on the regular have a Bad Religion album going on, or I listen to a lot of Faith No More and The Cult. I like early 90s rock, like Stone Temple Pilots and stuff like that. I love the first two Stone Temple Pilot albums. For people that have that Sirius XM, I just got a new leased vehicle, and so it's got that Sirius XM, and they have this lithium station, and it's all 90s stuff. And I love that station. Even the stuff that I couldn't stand in the 90s, I'm like, well, these songs still have great hooks. And it was back when things were still like being recorded in big studios and everything was just big and analog sounding, and it wasn't programmed drums and all this, because I cannot stand the sound of programmed drums. And that just seems to be what's going on with rock and roll right now, is every drum hit sounds the same. Everything sounds way too electronic and overprocessed and everything. So yeah, I guess I'm just kind of a, old man yelling at the sky at this point, but I love the sound of 90s rock.
No, I completely understand. I definitely understand what you're saying about like the programmed drums. Like it's all the same. There's no, it's all the same throughout the whole song. It doesn't have the soul to it, like as with 90s songs. Obviously I see my mom has XM in her vehicle, so anytime I had to drive her vehicle, it was either like Lithium, Octane, or like Ozzy's Boneyard.
Oh yeah.
Like the three I would go with, and so I always enjoyed that. So any excuse I had to drive her vehicle, I would. But no, I definitely understand what you're saying with like the program drums and having that you can definitely tell like when it's not programmed versus when it is. This, you know, but so many people do that just to have it sound very clean. But I do think it's missing part of the song while with doing that.
Well, the other issue that I have is that, again, I can basically remember the day that radio died to me, and that was like around 97 when like Limp Bizkit and Korn and everything started becoming popular, and music went from having like unique bands and bands that didn't all sound the same to instantly like, well, we're just going to now give you an onslaught of bands that sound like Limp Bizkit and Korn and all this stuff. And I just was like, oh, well, turn the radio off, because what really got me like huge into listening to the radio was when alternative music came out, and like Green Day and Offspring and all that stuff started being played on the radio all the time. And there was a lot of, even NoFX was played on mainstream radio in Detroit. Like there was a lot of cool stuff going on for like the summer of 94, 95, 96. And then it was like, all right, well, the radio sucks now. and I just, everything got way too commercialized and way too like, oh, hey, so instead of having one sounding unique hit, you're like, we're going to remake the song 5 times over and repackage it into different sounding bands that eventually will all sound like the same band by the time the 2000s hit. And that's really what pushed me into always just wanting to listen to unpopular or underground music. And that's what geared us to play in the genre that we play in, which is, you know, an underground genre essentially. And it's, yeah, it's the freedom we write whatever we want to write, sound however we want to sound, and we never aim to have the popular, you know, the popular listening ear.
No, I completely got you on that with that, but also, I mean, it's the music you guys want to make. It's not like, you know, you're like, oh, this could, you know, to me, bands who think, oh, just we should sound like this because we're gonna be popular, they don't last, you know, because your heart is not into it, because it's not the music they actually want to make. Again,
I harken back to you give me a paint by numbers on how to sound like any band, and you tell me that if you can do this paint by numbers properly, you will be famous and have all the money. We would still fuck it up.
I do want to talk about, so as I'm wrapping up this interview, because I know we're a little bit over time what I told you, so I do appreciate you sticking around. So obviously this 20 years Koffin Kats, you got the tour starting very soon, and you got the 20-year show coming up in Detroit. What is like the rest of 2023 looking like for the Koffin Kats?
So this is going to be our this will be our last tour until the end of the summertime, and then late summer, early fall, we'll start hitting the road again. So this next tour is the West Coast, and then we'll be I'm not exactly sure where we're going to be going in October, but October we start hitting the road again pretty heavy, and then rinse and repeat, do it again into next spring.
Well, right. I look forward to seeing you guys again. I was thinking about going to the Chicago show. I believe it was at Reggie's. Unfortunately, because I'm friends with the Rumors. I've had them on the show before. Really awesome people.
Yeah, very cool band. We've been talking to them about actually doing some more shows together. So there might be, who knows, next year might hold a tour with them, or maybe later this year.
I'm definitely all for that. I know they just announced a new tour. I'm supposed to see them at Motoblot in Chicago, so I'm definitely looking forward to that, because they always deliver a great show. I've always had fun rocking out with the Rumors, but unfortunately Indiana got hit with like a lot of snow and ice that day, so I was like, yeah, no,
I remember, because I was like, oh man, hopefully this doesn't mess up the attendance, but no, it was fine.
I'm glad everything worked out. Unfortunately, I was not able to make it, but I'm hoping another time I definitely get to see you guys again. Plus, with the Rumors, that would be an awesome added bonus as well.
Well, stay tuned. That's all I can say.
Hey, I definitely will be, but everyone else should be too. But Vic, thank you so much for hanging out with me here on Super Cool Radio. I had an awesome time chatting with you, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. And, you know, I have your contact and everything. So when we do actually get a release date and have our songs available, have new music available for streaming and all that, I'll link back up with you and we can talk about the new stuff.
Hey, I am all for that. Just let me know anytime. Yeah, you got my contact info. Plus, you got an awesome pink towel as well.
I do,
so.
I do, and you know that those need to become a staple. It's just, yeah. I mean, you think of super cool radio, you think of super convenient wipey towels.
Exactly. Hey, I'm planning on ordering more. I do try every band who I interview. I try to always send a few to them or meet them in person and give them to them. So I'm going to be ordering more over the next few days as well. So people stay tuned for that as well. But Vic, awesome time chatting with you. I look forward to all the great stuff. Unfortunately, I won't. I was thinking about going to the Detroit show. Unfortunately, I have another commitment that weekend in Chicago.
Not a problem.
I do hope you have a great 20-year anniversary show with that, plus a new tour on the West Coast as well. I will leave some links for all things Koffin Kats in the description of this podcast as well. Vic, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, and thank you for everyone who tuned in, and have a great rest of your show.
Thank you so much. For Vic Victor of Koffin Kats, I'm your host always, Matthew Thomas. Thanks so much for watching. Listen to Super Cool Radio, and remember, stay frosty.